So Monty, take it away.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Monty Beal. I'm a solution architect. I've been consulting for about 20 years or so, primarily within the Southeast Wisconsin area. So my love of smart homes sort of started when I owned my first home. This was back in the day of X10, where they were big clunky devices, and you can wire and hook them up to your garage, and you can also control some of the lights. And I had neighbors that, for the previous owners, that would tell me it was almost like a ghost home where the garage was going up and down and lights were flashing because the owner of the house previously, he had experimented a lot, and so it caused a lot of craziness around the neighborhood. So that was sort of my first intro, and I started to understand and get into a little bit more about smart homes from that X10 technology, which was basically sending on-off commands throughout your wiring within your house, control devices. So that was kind of the early start. So what we'll kind of go through here is a little bit of basics about how the industry sort of defines smart homes, technology and performance as it relates to what I put together for my own home. Applications, so the routines, the scenes, the different ways in which the IoT devices are pulled together to be able to automate the home. Lessons learned. So over a year, I've went through a lot of trial and error with a lot of different devices that I finally were able to sort of stabilize that technology stack and that brand in terms of the different devices that I use within a home, and what I see as an easy way to actually get started for individuals that maybe haven't done it or are afraid to do it. And then a little bit about the future, from where things appear to be going in terms of artificial intelligence and what that means for future investment within your own smart home. And this is an interactive discussion, so please feel free to jump in, raise your hand. Jason, I'm going to need you to kind of let me know because right now I've got full presentation showing.
Okay.
So a little bit about kind of the definition of a smart home with the way they sort of define it within the industry, right? So basically, they give you the view of a smart home from a cloud-based perspective. So you want to have different devices that communicate up to various clouds that then relay back information within your home to make you aware of what's on or what's off. So the industry says, hey, listen, you need an internet connection. You need to be Wi-Fi enabled. You want to be able to control, different devices, appliances throughout your smartphone or your tablet. And again, you can use all types of devices you want. They will all really be interoperable. And a lot of this is true and not true. So depending on where you get your information about what a smart home is, it might be brand loyalty that they're trying to move you towards, or it might be what now is going on, which is a lot of DIY. So before, you might be able to build your smart home if you went through like AT&T. I know they've got a version of, how to make your home smart. You've got your whole brand with Apple as well, and then you've got Google with Nest and all of their particular devices, and all those are really, really cloud-based. So when I started the smart home, I had a few goals, and it really sort of centered around a lot of needs that came out of my previous home. So security cameras, just making sure we were aware of what was going on within the home and exterior to the home when we were away from the home, and being able to capture videos when need be. Lighting, my kids would constantly be leaving the lights on in the house. And like most homes in Wisconsin, if you live in a two-story, you also have a basement. So that's where all the video games were. By the time they made it upstairs, to the bedrooms on the third floor, on the second floor rather, right? They forgot to turn off the lights. Well, nobody's going downstairs at 11 o'clock at night to turn off the lights, so they just stay on, right? I also wanted whole home audio, so the ability to not have to invest in Sonos, to have sound around the house. You know, we love music around here like most, so I wanted to be able to have music throughout the house and within what might be considered different zones of the house. I wanted to make sure we were locking the doors. Sometimes, you know, we're leaving the house and we kind of forget to lock the doors. So really not good, right? Kind of take advantage of, oh, we live in a decent neighborhood, I feel safe. And those are the ones that get attacked the most, right? So wanted to make sure we kind of were protecting ourselves. From an energy perspective, you know, looking at the thermostat, I would always be forgetting to adjust it. And again, you don't need a smart home to do that. You have programmable thermostats just by themselves. You could purchase right at Home Depot. But in my old house, I actually didn't have one, so I was constantly manually adjusting. So I was getting tired of that because again, I'm wasting energy. And then just safety. So in our current home that we have right now, we built a wine closet, and so my wife runs a daycare in a basement, and we didn't want the kids going in and out, maybe accidentally drinking the wine or breaking the wine bottles or what have you. And then the other thing with safety was, you know, if a door or window was left open too long, you know, really sort of being notified and being aware of that, more than anything. So my goals are trying to strike a balance between home automation and just some common sense. Everything doesn't need to be fully automated. I kind of like walking around here and there. I don't want a robot having to bring me coffee. So, you know, so we're trying to strike that good balance with convenience. So when you look at sort of the smart home environment, the way it looks, you know, you've got everything that's sort of being pushed up to the cloud for those companies to analyze what activities are going on and then to push the commands back down. Sort of sometimes need that two-way communication. Now, just because you might have smart devices doesn't mean they don't work if your internet is out. For example, switches on the wall. Just because maybe my switch can't communicate back up to its cloud provider doesn't mean that it will not be able to turn the lights on and off. But a lot of what happens with those hubs, and depending on what you use, you're trying to really centralize a lot of that communication into one place that then you can create activities from and scenes from, which are basically multiple ways of doing uh, multiple activities with a single command or a single sensor triggering some type of an action. You know, so when you look at the smart home, like in this picture, you got entertainment, security, energy, and all this is all sort of synchronizing around, you know, really your local network and your cloud network as well. So when you open up my cell phone, you'll notice I've got like a little grouping of home automation, and you'll see all of these particular apps that perform various duties. Well, obviously, I don't want to have to go to each one to control my home. So when you first get started, you're sort of in app hell land. You got all these apps, you got different devices that work independent of each other, and you're trying to figure out a way to bring them together. So, for example, a good example is Smart Life. It's an application that is made by a company called Tua, which is a Chinese-based company, and what they do is they allow a lot of IoT devices to use really a common smart app for management, and Smart Life does it really, really well. Well, that's great, but Smart Life doesn't really work that well with Smart Things, which is its own hub. And Smart Things is from Samsung, and they want you part of their ecosystem. Smart Things can integrate, with other devices, but maybe doesn't integrate with Tua. So if you wanted a single routine that says, hey, if this sensor goes off from smart things, I want to turn off a light that's a smart light switch in another room. Well, because of them maybe not being interoperable, it won't work. And so you try to figure out ways to make all of these different devices from all these manufacturers really sort of come together. And I think when you're first looking at building a smart home, when you start to look at it, that's what becomes challenging and confusing is what do you use as sort of that central brain? Is there such a thing? And why do you actually need it? Because you're hearing that you can create a smart home really simple and easy. And the answer is you actually can. So when I got started, I actually didn't go the simple route. I had already been down that simple route with X10, and I wanted something a little bit more sophisticated. When I say a little bit more sophisticated, I wasn't trying to build in complexity. Being a software architect, my goal is always around building something simple and that may become complex. So I wasn't trying to get into a complex land, but my needs, again, based on my goals that I had before, right? I wanted safety, I wanted security, I wanted convenience, all these things that I couldn't get them all from just one provider. I couldn't just get everything I wanted from Google. I couldn't get everything I wanted from just Samsung smart things. I needed it from a lot of different areas in terms of a lot of different brands, but I needed to pull them all together. So when I first started, I started with smart things. Big company, Samsung, they put a major effort into IoT. They had great devices, contact sensors for your doors, motion sensors, um, smart plugs. They have a lot of different devices. So I thought, hey, let me get started with that. They also had the ability to integrate with, well, they have 3 different communication protocols they support, Wi-Fi, Zigbee, and Z-Wave. So I thought, hey, this is great. I have a pretty good sized home where I needed to get 3 hubs for smart things to cover the area of the house. So it's a 3-story house, right? So I've got first floor, I got devices, second floor, and in the basement. And so one device wasn't enough. So I started to quickly find out, oh boy, the bill is starting to add up. I need more hubs for that, obviously for that signal strength to be there for all these different devices. So the way you sort of read this is, so I've got Spectrum. I would say something bad about them, but somebody might be on the call that works for them. So anyway, so I got Spectrum, and obviously the Spectrum modem itself, which is a modem router, isn't sufficient to cover the whole house. So then I needed to get a mesh network. So I went with Orbi, Netgear Orbi. And then I've also got a Netgear switch. So this mesh router comes also with a satellite hub, which gives me then full coverage across the house. So the way it works is for the Netgear switch, I've got my home assistant plugged in, and we'll go through what these are. And I got CASA, and I've got my audio video receiver connected into the switch, and then I've got my Orbi router here, if you will, hooked in that they're getting their basic IP addresses from an internet connection. Then directly to this particular router in the basement, then I've got smart things, and I got my PlayStation. Then from there, this is where everything might be Wi-Fi enabled, these different devices, device types. And then I also have Z-Wave going on with some of my sirens and my front door lock. And you can see my front door lock is different than my laundry and garage door. So these are Yale, and this is what's it called? Kiwi set. The name of it. I'm gonna look. So I've got all these devices all trying to work together. So this is where I ended up. If I had to start it all over again, this is the way it would look. So you would notice a little bit of a difference between the two. And the main difference is I probably would get rid of smart things. And I would have had more of these things working that were Wi-Fi enabled. And Home Assistant also supports Z-Wave and Zigbee as well. So if I wanted to, I could have those two go there. But I would have gotten rid of smart things only because Home Assistant really is that central hub, that central brain that is actually managing around all of these disparate devices and bringing everything together. Okay, so that's kind of the high level 30,000 square foot view. Kind of a little overrun of what all these different things are here. Lutron lights. So these are really nice lights. It comes with its own hub, okay, which can integrate with Home Assistant, but they're very quick. They can also work locally, and they have a lot of features to them. I went with some other very cheap switches, and there's a lot of work that you need to do as you need to wire those things together. Again, from a home automation perspective of knowing when the light is on, when the light is off. So Lutron makes it very simple, and there's a natural integration with it, a library with Home Assistant. You know, my LED light strips are from where are they from? Oh, they're Smart Life compatible LED switch, which again works well with Home Assistant. So I got full feature support within Home Assistant for Smart Life. Eufy cameras, I like Eufy cameras better than Arlo. They're a lot more responsive, and that was a difference between this picture as well. Kind of got rid of Arlo because Eufy cams, I can actually store video and clips locally. Each camera by itself has support for an SD card up to like 128 gigs, as well as you can store your videos on your local NAS. So it's got full support, if you will, for being not connected to the internet. So I like that. My thermostat is Honeywell. This could have been Nest. This could have been Ecobee. It could have been any of them. I really like Honeywell because it also had sensors, climate sensors that you can place at different locations in the house. So if you've got a very sophisticated 2-stage, 3-stage furnace unit, you can control heats at different areas within the house. So that's why I really liked Honeywell. Amazon, that's obviously my voice assistant. I got to say Mrs. A because I got one sitting right by me. Every time I say her name, she thinks I'm talking. So Lady A, she helps to allow all the family to communicate with her. So she's the voice assistant, and because it's Amazon, a lot of Alexa support in terms of voice assistance is built into a lot of new appliances in terms of TVs, audio video receivers, and appliances. So they've done a great job from an Amazon perspective. You know, yeah, there's some privacy concerns, but have kind of shaken that off a little. My door locks, I would get all on one platform, Yale. I really like those. They communicate well, either from Wi-Fi or from Zigbee. And then my sirens are from, let's see what, Zoos. They're really loud. And I've also made a couple of custom sirens that again work well with Smart Life. Again, you can pull these things together. And then my wall sockets are smart. They're from Tekken. So I've got a lot of smart outlets, and I'll explain how all these things really work together from a smart home. And I also have videos to show everyone so you can kind of see some things in motion. So I'll actually stop there in case there's any questions, because I don't know if anyone had any questions at the moment. No questions? Don't be afraid to ask. Hopefully this will go back to where it left off. Okay. So when I look at Home Assistant, what's important to understand is, one second here. So Home Assistant, like I've shown before, this kind of shows a little bit better view. it's got a lot of support for a lot of IoT devices and a lot of brands. I mean, more than you could imagine. This is an open platform with a lot of contributors, unbelievable documentation. And Home Assistant runs on a Raspberry Pi. So when you talk about, well, what is it? It's a piece of software, and it's actually helped to bring all of these IoT devices together. So a good example of what I've done in terms of Home Assistant, I probably have 100 or so plus routines. And what these routines do is they'll allow for me to control the house. So we'll talk about a scene. So one scene might be turn off the basement. Okay. So that scene, what that means to me is make sure you turn off all the lights in the basement, lights in the bathroom, lights in the closets, lights in the storage area, lights in the media room, and so forth. Also, turn off devices. So in our media room, we have, that's where it's kind of the central hub. So it'll start to turn off the TVs, and it'll turn off any other devices that are drawing power. So when I say turn off the basement, I mean things are shut down. We're not using, consuming any power that's not necessary. That's a scene that's running a lot of different routines together, so that's more of a complex routine. And the simpler routine might be, hey, if this motion sensor goes off, turn on this light. So for example, our laundry room doesn't have any windows. So for the most part, whether it's light outside or dark, you always need those lights on. So when that motion sensor goes off, it automatically turns on the laundry room lights. And that's a routine that was built. Now, it's smarter because then I say, hey, once it gets past a certain hour, turn the lights on at 50%. I don't want to get blasted. So if it's 10:30 at night, if I walk in the laundry room, the lights are dimmed at 50%. Now the house is starting to be a little bit more intelligent and more accommodating to the family based on the time of day. So that's where now you get into a little bit more complexity. And Home Assistant allows for you to build these routines through a tool called Node Red. So Node Red is this flow-based visual tool created by IBM. And what it does is it allows for you to visually map out and visually pull together APIs, internet, IoT devices to support any condition you want. You can also write JavaScript. It's got an editor for writing JavaScript. And I will show a little bit of Home Assistant so you can sort of see it's pretty nice visual ability to pull together workflows, if you will.
Hey, Monty.
Yes.
Question out here.
Okay. All right.
How track of battery levels of all your devices?
I will show that.
Okay.
I will show you an example of that. Good question. So we're almost getting to the cool stuff. So I'm trying to get all this stuff out of the way. So a lot of times my family gets confused. They think Alexa Lady A is running the house. Lady A does not run the house. Home Assistant runs the house. What Alexa does for us, if you look at this from a stack perspective, Home Assistant is the brain. And Amazon allows us with Lady A to initiate routines with voice commands. So I can tell Lady A, we're going to bed. And when I say we're going to bed, she shuts the whole house down. She turns off appliances because of what's plugged into our smart outlets. She turns off all the lights in the house. She ensures the system is armed. The house is armed, means our security system is turned on. So when we speak a command to Lady A, she isn't the one that's actually doing what's necessary. She's just relaying that down to Home Assistant. So they get confused because they can interact with her. They don't necessarily always interact with Home Assistant, but they do, but they don't realize it. Okay. And I do, because I had started with smart things, I still have a lot of devices that are pulled into Home Assistant from SmartThings because there's a natural integration. So now we're going to start getting into some fun show and tell sort of things. So here is my entry door. So I have about, I think, 14 Amazon Fire HD tablets across the house. And there are two primary ones, one at the front door and one at our laundry room door. And they have a screen that looks like this. So this screen is, hey, you're right at the door and you want to see if the garage door is open. Maybe you want to arm the house. When you arm the house away, you got about 2 minutes to get out, because if you don't, everything's going to start freaking out. Alarms are going to go off. So this gives you a little timer. Once you start to arm the house and you're going away, you got about 2 minutes before everything starts to really shut down. You can actually set off some of the alarms, and then you can see again which doors are locked or unlocked. So really a really quick view, but this isn't what I would consider the main control panel. This is sort of a really light view to control just some security aspects of the house. Now this is the next, this is the real control central. So this particular screen shows up in different Fire HDs that are in the house, what I consider to be those internal HDs. So once you're in a house, like in my office or in the kitchen, you're going to see this view of the control panel. And now you start to say, well, how do I know what devices battery powers or what? Well, this little guy right here is a battery. And if you click it, for all the devices that are battery powered, you actually see the percentage that they are in terms of charge. So this is one quick way in which I start to bring everything together. If I flip this guy on, it tells you through Lady A that the home is armed. The camera will start to turn, all the cameras turn on. The doors will lock, the garage doors will close. So everything starts to become secure. So I talked a little bit about routines and about scenes. And like I say, I've built out a lot of them because of the way our family is. So my wife has a daycare, for example. And so during the daycare hours, which are like 8 to like 5, there's certain devices in terms of Amazon's or Alexa's, I should say, that are turned off, meaning they will not respond to any command and they will not actually blast anything because she might be having the kids down for a nap. And then, so it follows a routine of when the house comes alive and when it sort of settles down around her daycare schedule. I have a real quick doors open routine. So, sometimes, the kids run in and out the house and they leave the door open. You don't always realize that. And so maybe you go by and you're like, hey, it's 10 degrees outside and I'm up there heating the outside. Why didn't anybody tell me the door was open? Well, with this, it says, hey, if the door's been open for 3 minutes, Lady A makes sure she tells us, and she will continue to remind us until we close the door. Now, the summertime is here, and we want the doors open. Maybe we want the patio door open and the screen. So then we have the ability to say, hey, that particular sensor, in terms of letting us know that the door is left open, I want to turn that off. So Lady A, don't keep reminding me that the door is open. I actually do want it open. So again, we control what happens in the house, not Lady A. So there's a lot built in terms of configurability. I talked a little bit about when the home arms. There's another mode called arm away right here. So arm away is a little different than when you're home. When you're home, you want to walk around freely within your house. All right. When you're away, you want to be notified if somebody's in your house. So now the motion sensors interior to the house are sensitive, and they will basically turn on the alarms. They will cut on every single light in the house. They will send notifications to my cell phone and they will email me. So there's a lot that goes on when you arm away. And then the house is smart. If you arm away, and it goes dark, the house goes into another mode, into a presence mode. What it does is it says, I'm going to look like someone is still here. So different rooms behave different. So if I come into my office after a certain time, I may be in my office only 30 minutes at a time. So there's this random window of time that my office turns on for 30 minutes and goes off. That's different presence than if I'm in my living room, which means someone was watching the TV, which means the lights might be on for a couple of hours. So I've got a lot of things that are happening to make the house feel like someone is still here, even when we're away, right? So if we're like, if in the media room, well, if you're in the media room, the lights are dim, you're watching a movie. How long will you watch a movie for? 2-3 hours. So those lights are on a different schedule of time that they're on compared to the office, compared to when you go into the garage. So it makes it feel like someone is here. There's also the ability to have, a dog barking, and then the music also plays. So again, oh, somebody has a question.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yes, Home Assistant is providing dashboard, and we will see that. Yes, the dashboard is Home Assistant. So is that out of the box? OOTP? What is that? What does that stand for? The acronym. So those are icons that you can pull into their hash icons, or you can use other different icons to represent visually what that routine or that control might be from the Home Assistant. Can we see his up you, John? Okay, yep, we'll try to jump into that. How about face recognition? So I haven't gotten to face recognition yet. Technically, I have because of Eufy. It has that ability to recognize humans versus pets. So, for example, I have a dog, so it doesn't set off certain notifications because my dog might be walking around, different than if it was a person. So some of that AI face recognition is built into some of the devices. So the screen that I was showing, those screenshots of Home Assistant, those are not out of the box. I had to actually design that. There are a few things that you can bring in a Home Assistant, and then using JSON, you can go and manipulate and configure where things are sitting, and where things are displayed. And we're going to see this in motion. Their video's coming up. So I'm just kind of showing you some screenshots. Oh, here they are. Okay. So I'm gonna just run through a few of these videos. So this will give you guys a little bit of an idea of the house in motion versus me just sort of talking about it. So we'll start with like the laundry room. Jason, let me know if something happens and things don't come across real well.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a demonstration of how I can control consciousness from the laundry room or from what I call an intrude or panel. So right away you can see that the action is. So as I walk in, there's a sensor that's going to pick up my motion that goes on. So we come to an entry door panel. So you can see here, from here you can see alarm, right now it's disarmed, there's no alarms that are on. In the actual laundry room door, that's on purpose. So open the door, you notice that again, understand it's about, open. Right now it also turns on all the garage lights. I'm gonna turn on, open, small garage. See the responsiveness click right open, click this. I'm actually going to turn on the garage. So you know there's a first floor siren, second floor siren, main floor, a basement, and garage. Pretty loud. So imagine that siren, I think it's about 120, 25 decibels. And it's that loud across the house from all those areas. So now I'm going to close the garage door. So that was an example of just real simple open and closing garage and turning on an alarm, for example. Let's see, front door open. So what happens in my house? We, you know, Lady A is very vocal for us. I like to know when things are going on. So when doors are opening and garage and things are happening in the house, I kind of like to be notified because that lets me know when people are coming in and out. Here's one for our wine closet. Right? Any of the kids accidentally, maybe accidentally, so. Trying to steer. So that was a little bit about the one, again, notifying when that wine closet is open. I want to know about it. Everybody knows. So if there was some unlawful entry, somebody figured out the codes that really only me and my wife have. Or now if my son is on this, watching this video, he's going to see it. I'm going to change that again. So I'll actually do the doorbell. So what happens with the doorbell, I have Arlo, and with Arlo, it has a doorbell sensor. What's got a doorbell? It's got a chime, and we've got two doorbells, one for our front door and one for our garage door. Well, there wasn't really one for the garage door, but we made one because of the doorbell chime. In this video, you won't hear the doorbell chime going off. I had it because what happens is when it goes off, it actually also rings my phone. And when it rings my phone, I can answer that. And I can also see someone who's at the garage door because it also would show a phone. It will also show who's at that location. So what happens is when you ring that doorbell, Lady A will announce throughout the house which doorbell. Hey, someone is at the garage door or someone is at the front door. So you know the difference of where they are. So I'll just play this video so you can sort of see that in action. A little bit about that. Oh, so then again, we like to use a lot of voice automation. So for example, in the media room, there's a lot of stuff going on. You got the TV, you got the AC, AV receiver, you got the subwoofer, you got the PlayStation, you got all these things that need to get turned on. Well, I'm kind of lazy that way. I actually don't want to have to touch everything to turn it on. So by speaking this command, which communicates to Home Assistant, I can get those devices those smart sockets to turn on. I can get the TV to turn on. I can get the AC receiver, the Fire HD, the PlayStation, all to turn on with a single command. Alexa, turn off meeting room. Alexa, turn on meeting room. My son said the videos are very glitchy. Are you guys seeing things okay?
They're a little bit. I think it's doable.
Okay. All right. I apologize. I'm doing my best here. They look good to me. So you can kind of see how things are start to be managed. I'll show some other ones. So for example, here's a good example of the front door. If you open the front door, for example, everyone is notified just like every other door. Another difference with this door is if you close the door and you don't lock it, it will automatically lock after a minute. Okay. So again, if you're forgetting to close doors and lock doors, there's certain doors we want to be locked, and there's other doors we want to remain unlocked just because of the frequency of going in and out. Like our laundry room, for example, we leave unlocked from 8 until 10 at night, and then after that, it automatically starts to lock. So I'll show this video. So here's a demonstration of the front door. And so let's and so hopefully that's making sense. I'll show you this one about arm and disarm, because this also comes with a few visual cues to the family. And what I mean by that is if the house is armed, and let's say for whatever reason you didn't realize it, and then you start opening doors, guess what you're going to do? You're going to set off the alarm. But there's visual cues throughout the house that lets the family know that the home is armed. So they shouldn't make those mistakes. Nighttime, it's getting late. The house is starting off. Lights are not on. So right now I'm gonna actually turn on the alarm. I can tell it's saying to do it. But I'm just gonna I do that, what will happen is that all the doors, each doors will lock, option close, cameras will turn, and the house is free to be protected. Now there's two roles for an armored house. One is armored house called armored. So when you arm home, motion sensors in the house motion. So we can run around the house. When you're ready, those motion sensors in the house, they will actually trigger. So that's the prevent us anyone through the basement uh, from moving around free. Okay. So the cameras will start to turn on. You will see visual indicators turn on. House, and they let everyone know that the house is on. So don't go and open any doors you will set off. You will notice that in the hallway, so the hallway, office. All lights on. So that way, you'll get that full blast of brightness, especially with these LED lights. And so I can tell this is A to disarm, which will shut off the cameras and turn off the visual disarm. So you can see there, visual indicator, those are all turned off. Now I can freely open doors. Open that door. Turn the light. Real good. Light automatically turn on. Senses of no motion. There is motion that is when GG is outside and it senses GG keeps the lights on. And then until that motion stops, then it interval, then it will turn on. Let me see if there's any questions. When picking devices to install, do you think about which ones you leave behind if you move to a new place? Yeah, that's a great question. No, who's ever getting this house, they paying for everything. What I'm taking with me is Lady A, because those aren't gonna come with the house. But I've got, oh my gosh, I couldn't even tell you how many light switches I've moved from just normal switches to Lutron. Lutron switches are not the cheapest. They're like, you could go and get a light switch from Home Depot for what, like $4? Just a normal manual one, or even some of the other ones, smart ones for 12. Like Lutron switches are like $64 a piece. They're not cheap. And I had to have an electrician install some of these because the wire in its house was so crazy. So those things I would leave behind. Other things I would take with me. And it would kind of be all dependent on how much that that new buyer, that new homeowner would want to remain in the house. So let's stop someone from coming in and just pushing the button and disarm the house. Good question. So I do have on the entry panels, when you try to arm the house, there's a key code you have to put in. So that would stop. I did have them on and I can easily turn it on for the ones that are interior to the house. I just turn them. I just don't have the same control. I shouldn't say I don't have the same control. I just don't have those enabled, I should say. But I do have the ability to turn on putting in a key code. So hopefully that answered that. I will, let me see. That was on disarm. Oh, media room. Okay, this is the last one. So this goes towards kind of home, what's called whole home audio. So this video might be a little long, so I'm gonna make sure I maybe speed it up a little bit. But what I do is I walk around the house as all the music is actually playing. My house is under a little bit of renovation, so you have to deal with some of the mess. That's the start. So that's a little demonstration. How we doing on time, Jason?
Oh, we're 1 hour in, so we're doing okay. There is a question out there. So, do you isolate your IoT devices on their own VLAN in the event they're hacked or
Yes.
compromised?
Yes, they are on their own VLAN. Yep, absolutely. So I got multiple networks in the home. Yep. So I'm trying to get also my cameras on a different one than my devices. That's kind of the next set of things that I'm working on. Yep, you got it. Let's see. Okay. So a couple of lessons learned as I was doing this. Like I say, I've got a lot of routines that are going on that I couldn't show everyone everything, but I definitely tried to stick to my goals of, really trying to support the security and trying to support the lighting, energy efficiency, uh, home hall audio, and that video can't do justice to the actual sound. You have to actually be in a house to hear it is really, really nice. The locks, the thermostat and safety in terms of being able to lock doors, make sure they're secure, making sure we're doing a great job with energy consumption, which my bill has been amazing, even in the winter, just because of how we can keep the home warmed in different zones and devices not using energy they're not supposed to. And then just the safety aspect, everyone feels pretty aware. Cameras can kind of come on, and I'll show if we have enough time. I want to show a little bit more about Home Assistant. I know we have some technical people online, so I know you want to be able to see some of those things and where everything is really sort of configured. Selecting the home automation software is really key. Home Assistant is really great. There's others like Habitat. Habitat is built from the premise that you can control things locally and you do not need an internet connection. So power or internet connection goes out, you can still control your home through Habitat. That also is dependent on the devices that you also are using that can work locally. So sometimes you have to really change the firmware on some of the devices to make them work locally. And I didn't want to really get into some of that. And I thought Home Assistant really sort of struck a great balance between simple things you can do, smart things in terms of routines and things you could set up, but yet a little bit more of that advancement for those developers that really want to go to the next level. It really does strike a good balance. You want to select good compatible devices. So, once I knew I was going to really start going a home assistant route, I said, hey, when I start selecting devices, does it work with Home Assistant? Because it doesn't, I may have to wait until they come out with a compatible library, Home Assistant that is, or I might look at a different alternative. So I started to really look at those things. Experiment, be ready to return items. Some things just don't work as they are intended, or they come bad in terms of just not a good device themselves. And Amazon for me is like a member of the family. They used to be here almost doggone every day. So, you get used to that, being able to return things easy. I tried to keep it simple for the family to use, right? We can quickly go unwieldy. So, making sure they understand they can use natural language to talk to Lady A, making sure things were spoken to as you would think. So if you wanted to turn off the kitchen, you should be able to say, hey, Lady A, turn off the kitchen. You want to turn off the living room, you should be able to just use living room as a simple word. Things like that, that makes it easy for the family to adapt and accept, as well as the control panels, letting them understand how to use it. And then you have to start to stay up to date. I think there was one slide we actually did not go through. Oh man, where is that slide? Actually, there's a slide that did not go through. Did we go through this slide? I don't think we went through this slide. This is a little bit of background here. So we're in third generation. So first generation was your mom and dad having a remote control to the TV. That was human control, right? And then we kind of graduated in kind of 2010 to remote home, where you could use your cell phone to really control the home remotely, as well as you know, your TV, air conditioner, anything that became a little bit more smart enabled. You know, now we're in where we are right now. It's third generation. This is what's considered to be if this then that, IFTT, and that's actually a platform itself. But what it is we can use sensors to trigger actions. We can build conditions. We can do programmable things that were very hard or not available back when remote home came. Um, then we can communicate and pull together all these communication protocols like Z-Wave and Zigbee and Wi-Fi. There's just wide support across those. So you don't have to be only a Z-Wave fan or have a Z-Wave device. You can mix and match if you need be. I've got that within the home itself. So we're really in third generation. We haven't yet gotten to fourth generation. That's coming. This is the AI era. This is learn, think, you know, consider, then react. So what does that mean? So for example, every day at 10 o'clock, or it's actually 10:30, the house will automatically arm. It's programmed to arm at 10:30. But what happened if I had guests over in a party and the house automatically armed, you know, and it was so loud people didn't hear Alexa, and at the same time they didn't understand what the visual indicators were for those plugs, and they went to open the door. Now, I mean, they're getting blasted with the sirens. Well, AI would have said, wait a minute, I recognize that there's a large group here. So I'm going to delay arming of the home until the recognizable members of the family are the only ones in the house. That's AI. It can learn, it can understand. Don't go and run this routine if it's not the appropriate time. And or it's able to ask, hey Monty, would you like to arm the house now or later? Say, later. And then it might understand what later means. That is where we're not at. I have to initiate the conversation with Lady A. Lady A isn't initiating the conversation with me right now. So that's coming, and there's actually support with that with Lady A. It's just not full featured. There's support with that with some of the cameras, AI cameras that are there from Nest and Eufy, but not in its full glory. And it's not there from a home assistant. So you can start to cobble these things together using TensorFlow. That's another library to develop AI-enabled awareness within your home, as well as Jetpack. Those are technologies. But you have to really start to put some things together and really hack some things. And so it's just not naturally available, if that makes sense. And then, so I just tried to stay true to this as I was learning, and make sure I was trying to reach my goals. So, and I'm gonna try to jump real quick to Home Assistant. So the future for me is, I don't know if you guys have seen, but Ring is coming out with a security drone. It's like $250, so it's not super expensive. And it actually, based on how it's triggered to start, will go around your house to where it was, wherever that sensor kicked off in terms of alerting you of something. So it is pretty slick. I think it's due to come out in another couple of months. So it's actually a drone that has a camera on it that is there to be a mobile camera, if you will. I want to use AI. There's a guy, he created a home called Jarvis. And obviously those that are Marvel fans know what Jarvis is. That is the home or the computer, the AI that controls all of Tony Stark's, Iron Man's, it controls the house. And he's using AI, he's using Bitcoin, he's using cryptocurrency to actually smart enable his home. So one of the things he's done is allow Jarvis to control whether the kids have access to their mobile devices, if their rooms are clean or not. So with TensorSoar, it takes a snapshot of a lot of different variants, let's say of that kid's room. You classify whether or not those images represent a clean room or a dirty room. And then after it has enough information, it's learned enough, you've provided it with enough, it can really understand whether or not that room is clean, and then just operate it accordingly. Hey, room's not clean, so access to those devices are not available. Once you clean your room, guess what? They're available. So things like that are there. Again, you got to really get into the program and take advantage. So for me, my future is doing some of those things, increasing my web security. I want to use more devices locally than cloud-based, obviously for security purposes, making sure my videos are kept local, making sure I can control the house even if my internet provider is down, which is Spectrum, which has tended to happen a lot lately. And then I just want to keep expanding, network my sprinkler system. I want some faster external Wi-Fi cameras. I want a second home assistant for some redundancy. Bring in some NFC tags, so if someone comes over and everybody always needs to connect to the Wi-Fi, they can just boom, hit that NFC tag and they're already set up on the guest network. Bring in a smart vacuum, smart mirror, and so forth. I also want to do a little crazy laser tripwire within the house, all around the house, and some other type things. As you can see, my wife snores. My kids claim I snore, but I don't. And I want to be able to have it where something's going on in the bed that makes her stop snoring, raises up. Maybe I got to invest in some of those smart bed things. But at the same point, there's some other things you can do with some smart bed sensors that can rattle the pillow a little bit, things of that nature. And then I need to replace some of my TVs. They're a little ancient today. They're not built in, they're not smart TVs. So I want to replace some of those so I can bring a few more features into play. And with that, what I want to do is show a little bit of Home Assistant if we have a little bit of time. So what you're seeing right now is Home Assistant. I'm actually going to go real quick to the central dashboard. So what's that? Did someone say something? So we've seen this home screen. If I go here, this is where you can control specific individual devices. So I can turn on the foyer lights, sitting room, and so forth. I can see what's going on with the different Amazon Alexa devices. You can see I've got different types of lights. I got LED strips. I got outlets, smart outlets. So I can turn on the top or the bottom outlet, right? That might have a device plugged in. It turns it off so it doesn't use any power. I do that in my living room. So when we go to bed and we say, shut the house down, then Alexa turns off the outlets that also have a USB plug to them as well. So we really can't control that energy consumption. And you can see there's a fan, things of that nature. So this is where I can control specific devices, but I tend to use scenes a lot more because they tend to do a lot of things just with one click, right? So I want to turn on all the cameras. I don't have to flick on every one. I'm actually going to turn them on. So if I go to the next screen, you can actually see all the cameras turned on. And it takes a second because there's quite a few of them. But there's other things that can do multiple things with just a single command or just with a click, okay? And then, so here's where I can control the motion sensors. So if my wife, like, right, we're going through a renovation in the laundry room, and she wants the laundry room on more than off, then she can just say, hey, motion sensor, if I'm really still and I'm doing something, you don't see motion, don't go and turn the light off on me. So she wants to manually control the light. This is how she would be able to control individual lights. She can just turn off the motion sensors and just do it like normal, regular people and start touching lights. I don't do that anymore. So you can do that. Here's where I can see my battery consumption across the different devices. So I can see, hey, pretty soon I'm going to have to replace the batteries at my front door lock, things of that nature. I also get a notification. Those are other things I haven't talked about as much. I've got notifications that go off that send me emails and send me texts based on different conditions. So if I'm away, again, I'm notified about things that are going on. So I've got that communication as well. And then here's where, again, I'm upstairs, we're in our bedroom, and I want to control the thermostat. I can control it from here because I've got this Fire HD on in our bedroom wall. And then there's things that are kind of global settings. So if I don't want Lady A to even just talk, she's getting annoying, I can just flick her right here. So if someone opens the door, she won't say anything. If someone broke in the house, that's an override. She will say something. But other than that, she'll be quiet. So we can make her become quiet. There's night mode. So when night mode goes on, again, lights are dimmed. They're not at full brightness. But what if we want to turn off night mode? We can do that. Holiday lights, the same thing. Obviously, Christmas time, we had lights all on the outside, and everything, again, was controlled. So it went off at a certain time and so forth. If I want to restart the whole smart home in terms of restart smart things, restart home assistant, I have everything sort of timed out on when those go off, reset, and then the next set of hubs turn off as well. So that's what this does. So it really can kind of flush the cache, if you will, which is good to do every once in a while. So this is sort of the main control panel. Again, this is what that looks like. So it's sort of got its own little language for how you start to define tiles and panels and what are in those panels. This is the geeky side of this. And this, I come in here more than going to what might be considered, I don't even know how to get, I don't even go the other way. I only go through that way. So when I talk Node Red, which is really the workhorse of Home Assistant for me, and I sort of talk about being able to use this visual workflow to you can see it's 119 flows, which you might consider routines. This is what this is what it looks like. So a good example is when I arm the home. So when I arm the home, this is a complex workflow. It's got a lot of stuff going on within it. To turn on cameras, do all these other type of things, know about intruder off. There's a lot of stuff that's sort of going on. And you'd be surprised. You'd think, oh, I need to be able to write code. I'm telling you, I have yet to need to get down and write actual JavaScript. Now, that's not to say I don't have some JSON within some of these areas. So just a real quick state view of things. I have yet to really have to get to a real, what we consider developer level. And this thing is, it's super flexible. I've got loops in here as well. Trying to think of one of them, and I have a loop on. It might be the doors open. No, not that one. But you can see there's just a lot of things that you can, with these workflows, you can do. Here are all the nodes over here. You can see there's subflow. There's a lot of things that are going on here that you can pull in, different network things. There's Mqtt, which is basically a queue, messaging queue. This was used in the early days for being able to work within disparate hubs, if you will, to be able to send messages and broker those through. So again, this was created by IBM to really pull together IoT devices, and it really does a great job. There's a lot of supportive documentation and information out there in the community. So you don't get this going alone. So Here's also, obviously, I can access this Home Assistant. I've got Duck DNS going on, and you know, so here's the dashboard for my supervisor stuff. You know, here's integrations. These are the things again that I talk about and I'm integrating with. Right here, Smart Things, TOs, it's the Denon, Lutron, Tua. Here's Alexa, Miros. This controls my garage doors and some other exterior plugs. I'm also, because of Casa integrates with, our smart homes integrates with Casa. So Casa, I have a smart plug, and that smart plug, not power strip. I'm sorry, it's a smart power strip. So I can control individual plugs of that strip, which is really cool, right? So I can say, hey, turn off plug number 1 and 4 of this particular power strip. So I've got a lot of devices like that around the home that I can control. So this is just a little bit, as you see, Home Assistant. Again, there's still a lot of configuration that happens behind the scenes as well. So this is where, you know, we get into sort of start to get into developer areas for defining. Again, I'm starting to define credentials and, again, endpoints and things like that that are then later brought into Node-RED because I've defined that endpoint, that device. So there's a lot of that going on through these different configuration files, if you will. So again, it is like its own little development environment. It's like its own Visual Studio. And actually, I used to have Visual Studio as one of the editors. They sort of deprecated support for, it was almost like Visual Studio Lite. I actually was using that to do a lot of configuration manipulation. So it's even got support for that, believe it or not. So actually, I'll stop. Oh, there's some questions. Okay, so where should I start? New isolate. Why do I isolate the cameras differently? Well, because I want to isolate them because that's even more personal information, right? That's our images, our family. So I want to make sure we're protecting against that because again, those cameras are on. If someone is peeking in, at least I want to isolate whatever the things they may be able to do. I have my cameras are doing it. Yes. I want the other IT. Yeah, yep, you can separate them on different. So I've got devices on a separate network that's running smart things than that's running some of the other devices. So I'm starting to really move things into their own VLANs, if you will. Personal preference. Oh, okay. Oh, nice. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yes, you need, so Home Assistant recognizes security. They understand the importance of it. So there's a Home Assistant cloud by this company here, Nabu Casa. And so what they do is they require they require obviously a cert. They require some other security measures so that you can with confidence access Home Assistant from, you know, from your remote device. Okay. All right. So that's all I got. Hopefully it was enlightening. And again, I spent a lot of time with this and it's working so far flawlessly once I've got it stabilized. Things just start to happen. They're very responsive, being able to turn lights on, turn lights off, control different devices, all the routines working the way. So dusk hits, exterior lights turn on, dawn hits, they turn off. Just the security features, the alarms are always going off when need be. I test them regularly I try to breach the house. All the routines that are now so normal to me that I even forget what's going on. They're sort of just integrated in our lives right now. And we don't even realize it because things are just happening like clockwork. doesn't feel like it's a struggle.
Awesome.
All right, that's all I got.
Awesome.
Look, we got another question here, Monty.
Yes, I actually, because we've been at home working so much, I actually turned off geofencing. But yes, when me and my wife, obviously our devices are away from the house, then the home arm's away. But I turned that off because we've been home so much. It's like, okay, I'll turn it on when we need it. It's an easy feature within Home Assistant to enable. Yes, but I do have geofence capabilities and have used. Oh, that's Kevin. Hey, that's my man.